is one of the most commonly overlooked and underrated elements of cinema. Some people assume Hollywood achieves fantastic colors, lighting, and moods with a fancy camera. However, nothing could be farther from the truth. Color grading is a very complicated and time-consuming portion of the production pipeline, and can sometimes make or break the look of your film. But I wouldn't worry about it. I've got something for you. A one-click power grade for all your grading needs. This grade is created to imitate some of the greatest grades out there, with a focus on the famously sleek teal and orange of the Batman, and the brilliant dystopian colors of Blade Runner 2049, while also emulating the brilliant charm of real Kodak film stock. Sound too good to be true? Let me sweeten the pot. It's free, mostly because it's illegal for me to make money off it, but there you go. If you've watched any video on my channel, you might have seen the travel montage from my trip to Costa Rica this spring. In my opinion, it's the best looking video I've created from a cinematic standpoint. What surprised me is that it actually took me the least amount of time. Each shot was graded using the power grade I'll be giving a link to in the description below. It facilitated the grading process, making it 10 times more efficient to create my newest projects. So I thought, maybe it'll help other amateur filmmakers like me who have no money to pay an actual colorist. Let's get started. To download the grade, simply click the link in the description and download it to your device. Then drag the file into your Gallery tab under Power Grades. First, we'll start with how to use the power grade and break down what each individual element is doing. Then, we'll apply it to a few different shots with different lighting scenarios and see how to adapt the grade accordingly. Now, I created this power grade to color my Costa Rica project, meaning this grade highly favors a late afternoon lighting scenario, as it is meant to accent the colors of a sunset. We will start with the kind of shot this grade was made for, and move on from there. Here's a shot I got at sundown at a beach just out of Tamarindo, Costa Rica. To begin with, open up your Gallery tab and apply the power grade to your clip. Because this grade focuses on efficiency and cost efficiency, it is created for one of the cheapest cinema cameras on the market, the Blackmagic Pocket 4K cinema camera. However, it can be easily adjusted to match whatever device you shot your footage on. My image looks properly converted and well graded. However, this might not be the case depending on your media source or media in. Just click on the media in node in the labeled power grade folder and click on the effect in the top right hand corner of your screen. Now, the settings you'll want to use for your footage will vary depending on your filming color space. For cinema cameras, just look up the basic recording specs of your camera and enter those into their respective slots. For those shooting on an iPhone, leave these two slots empty and select the Use Timeline option. Now your footage should be properly corrected and the LUT should be working. If you don't want to do this for every shot, either save this newly adapted grade as a preset, or, when you grade your next clips, use Shift+ instead of reapplying the base grade. Now that we know how to apply the grade, we will learn about the different nodes and what they do, so we can focus on how to adapt this grade to different lighting scenarios and different projects as a whole. We will start with the most important nodes, those being In, Out, Kodak 2383, Balance, Grain, and Halation. Once you apply this grade, many of you will realize the playback of your clip on your computer is horrifically glitchy. I have a fairly good system and I can sometimes drop up to 12 frames with this grade enabled. To fix this, while you are editing or grading or need to watch the entire clip, we will disable the heavy groups of the node. The two nodes that are affecting your playback the most are the halation and grain nodes, so for simplicity's sake, we'll talk about them first. Halation and grain are two traits of video shot on real film stock. Grain is the microtexture chemically embedded into real film, and halation is an orangey-red glow typical of film cameras. The most important part about these nodes, however, is that they take up a lot of computing power, so it's smart to disable these when working with your footage. The in and out nodes are the color space conversions of your footage. The in node takes your recording color space, like we discussed earlier, and turns it into DaVinci Wide Gamut and DaVinci Intermediate. This is one of the largest color spaces to grade in, and will give you much more latitude when grading your clips. For this to work properly, however, we will first go to our project settings, color management, then change our parameters from Rec 709 Scene to DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. The Out node changes your DaVinci wide gamut working color space into the preparatory Cineon film log. That might sound a little complicated, but don't worry, you only need to understand the In node. The Balance node is for scenarios in which the colors of your clip are not even or natural after you apply the grade. For example, look at the shot of this dog. It looks good, but when I apply the grade, we see it has far too much teal. The Balance node would be used to cancel the teal and bring the footage back to a natural color. The best way to do this is to use the offset log wheel. Now that we've gone over the most important nodes, let's explore the others. The simplest node is the Contrast node, which is simply for adjusting the brightness of your image using the log wheels, like so. The Film Curve node is used to give the shadows and highlights a more film-like roll-off and to bring back details in your image. This curve gives the impression of a higher dynamic range. The HDRI node simply reinforces the effect of the film curve by dropping the highlights in the HDR wheel. The Look and Look Adjustment nodes are empty and intended for either a teal and orange grade or a bleach bypass look, but they can be used to add any flavor you want to the grade in order to adapt it to your project. The Color Warper and HSL curve nodes are used to accent the teal and orange colors and can be disabled or intensified. To use either, click on the node and navigate to the HSL Hue versus Hue option or the Color Warper tab. And finally, the Denoise tab is simply for using DaVinci's denoiser to clean up any RGB noise in your image. Now you know what each node does, let's apply it to a few shots and see the results to get an idea for how this grade is used in common practice. Occasionally, as is the case with this first clip, certain adjustments must be made before you can attain the desired look. Usually though, this grade is just as simple as adding it to the clip and watching it solve all your problems. Alright, there you have it. Your one-click grade to satisfy all your grading needs and grade like a pro. I've left a link to it in the description. Happy end of summer, guys.